Turn turn on the. Oh. All right, everyone. Welcome to the Real Estate Game Changers Show. I'm your host, Mike McKay, based in Jacksonville, Florida. And each and every week, we do this show with people who are changing the game of real estate all over the country. And this is a live show. So if you have any questions, please put them in the comments for our guest to answer. For anyone in the Jacksonville area, we are currently hiring salespeople. So if you have sales experience, but not real estate experience, send me a DM on Instagram. We're looking for one or two more people to join our sales team for this coming quarter. This week on the show, we have Viktor Rybachuk. Viktor, welcome to the show.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it. Yeah, thanks for having me on.
For sure. So for the people who don't know you, can you share a little bit about how you got into real estate and how that's led you to where you are today?
All right. Well, my entrepreneurial journey, it all started when I went to school, and I was just kind of looking at opportunities of like, hey, what's there to do? I didn't really know what I wanted at the time, so I just kind of went to school just to go to school. Quite frankly, people telling me like, yeah, go to college, get a degree, get a job. And I've always had like higher aspirations than just that. Not that it's bad. I mean, like, it's super important to have people that work for, a company. But for me, I always thought like something else. And I got my degree, and then I made the very parallel transition into real estate. I mean, the degree that I got really helped me to get into real estate. It was so synonymous. Nursing. I got into nursing. So after 7 years working as a nurse in the pediatric hospital, I was like, okay, I'm gonna transition to real estate. And some people will think, man, that's such a polar opposite of real estate does. And how did you even get into that? There's actually a lot of similarities that people don't know. One of the hospitals that I worked at was Seattle Children's Hospital. That hospital was one of the best, maybe actually still is, in the country. They teach you systems and processes. They teach you organizational skills. They teach you continual education, bedside manners, aka how to talk to people. Don't be weird. Don't be a weirdo. So there's a lot of transferable skills that that you have that you can get into real estate. And so that's how I kind of just transitioned. I was like, hey, I want something more. Something else is out there. And I tried that route, and I got my degree. I actually went to get my prereqs for med school, and I did that for about a year, and then I was like, what am I doing with myself? I am spending 70, 60 hours a week, either, doing part-time work and in school. What the heck am I doing to myself? And I'm seeing these doctors in the hospital myself, working these crazy hours. I'm like, this is not the lifestyle that I want. And it's not that I was doing bad in school. My teacher's like, are you kidding me? Why are you quitting? Like, your grades are fine. You're not failing. It's not because of that. Like, what? And one of my teachers was really trying to convince me not to quit. And I just was like, I don't want this. And when I did actually quit, it felt good. It felt good. And people say, oh, you quit, your failure, yada yada. No, you got to know when to stick in there. You got to know when to quit. And you can't really say someone is a failure or not, because people don't have the right perspectives. And I'm glad that I made that decision. And I tried a couple of things in the hospital. It didn't work out. And I was like, man, there's something else out there for me. What is it? And I literally Googled this. I literally Googled how to make money. and then there's this website. I think people know it very very well. I think it's called howto.com or something. And so it was like, okay, this is the ways to make money. They were like talking about like garage sales and selling books. I'm like, no, I don't want to do any of that. And it said something about real estate. And I was like, real estate, interesting. And I didn't really pay too much attention to it. Then I kept on Googling, and the abyss of the internet led me to real estate. And I was like, I don't want to do real estate. It's such a cliche to be in real estate for like the Russian community, which is I'm actually Ukrainian, but in the Ukrainian community, everybody is either flipping cars or doing construction. That's the joke in the community. I'm like, nah, I want to stay away from the stereotype. I don't want to do that. That's why I went to college, to kind of stay away from the stereotype. But it kept coming up. It kept coming up that real estate is a way to do it. And I read somewhere out there that like most millionaires are in some way or fashion in real estate. I was like, huh, well, that's interesting. That kind of disrupts my stereotype of it. Then after that, it was more of like one breadcrumb led to the next. I joined, not, yeah, no, I did. I joined some RIAs locally, went up to the meetings, and I was like pretty high on it, right? I'm in this euphoric state, like, okay, I'm going to make a lot of money. I'm getting into real estate. Well, somebody provided me the coaching of, hey, just do, 3 to 4 wholesale deals and you can flip. I'm like, what is that? I know flipping. That's what I want to do. What's the thing you called wholesale? They're like, well, a wholesale. And they explained to me exactly what that was, right? You assign the contract, somebody pays you for the assignment, and then you could take that money to have a down payment to buy a flip. And I was like, okay, that makes a lot of sense. Okay, so what I'll do is, at the time, I'm like, broke, don't have a lot of money. And I'm like, okay, that sounds like a good idea. That's a great way to build up the capital. And then as I was doing it, somebody told me, wholesaling is not very scalable. It's only a stepping stone into real estate. And that's kind of what I believed and was being taught to me. That wasn't true. That wasn't true, but it was true for me at that time. And so here I am, 10 years down the road, I have an awesome team of right now 14 people. 14 people. And proving that it is 100% scalable. It's 100% scalable. So that's kind of my journey into real estate.
Gotcha. Okay. And then, so you decided that you weren't going to be in flipping at all? Did you stick with wholesaling the whole time, or?
Yes. Well, I did my first deal. And the crazy part is like my first deal that I did, I looked at this check, and I actually did a Facebook Live after I got that check. And I was telling my, peeps at the time, I was like, this check represents 4 months of me needing to be a nurse. And this one piece of paper, I would have had to work 4 months to make the exact, oh, look at the sparks. Oh, wow. Okay. I would have needed to work 4 months to make the exact same kind of money that I just did with this one deal. That really was the proof that I needed, the affirmation that I need to have. And I showed this finally to my wife. My wife was skeptical, as she should have been. Okay, as she should have been. Here I am, working 12 hours a shift, coming home from that shift, going to seller appointments until 11, 12 o'clock p.m., going to bed, waking up at 4 p.m., going to the gym, then going to work and repeating that cycle over and over again. She's like, seeing me spending the money on marketing, seeing me work really hard, all these hours. She's like, is this really worth it? You're not making money. What's going on? When are you going to quote unquote pull the plug? When are you going to turn off the leaky faucet? And so when I made that money, for her, it was like, oh, interesting. Okay. I gave her the certainty that there's something here. And I just reinvested that money back into the business. 100% of it I reinvested. I didn't use a dime of it. I put all of it back into marketing. And then I did my second deal, which I lost money. Did my third deal, lost money. It wasn't a very good start. On the first couple of deals, I lost money. That was definitely painful. Definitely painful to
Those were flips,
to see.
or?
They were wholesales.
Okay.
Yeah, they were wholesales. And then one deal I made a good size of money. I was like 39,000. I was like, oh my gosh, I made 39,000. And it was like okay results, right? Really, I got a lot of traction when I made the decision to go full time. And I did it the best time ever. Okay. It was really good timing. My wife is pregnant. We're about to have a child, and here I am quitting my job to do this full time without any guarantee of an income. Okay. So there's a lot of uncertainty going on here. But once I finally made that leap, that very scary leap of like, okay, 1 foot in, 1 foot out. Nope, I'm gonna be completely 2 feet in now and doing this.
Mm-hmm.
That's when I got results. Literally, it
Mm.
was it was completely evident because when I'm doing my job part time and then doing real estate part time, I'm going to get part time results. That's exactly what happened. I wasn't able to,
Mm.
go on seller phone calls. I wasn't able to pick up the phone. I wasn't able to visit properties. Then I quit and I was able to go on all appointments at any time that I could because I was doing this full time.
Yeah.
Guess what? I locked up roughly, it's been years, like $42,000 and $48,000 deal right after doing that.
Mm.
Yeah. So it was just a matter of focus. And once I got focused, I started to get more and more traction.
Yeah.
So that was the beginning of this journey that I'm on now.
Yeah. And then kind of maybe tell us a little bit about how your business is structured today.
Today, yes, I have a freaking awesome team. So I have,
Mm.
like I said, 14 people total. I have we've reshifted. We used to have, well, I'll just call it 4 appointment centers. One of them is actually now a sales coordinator, meaning that she does
Mm.
making sure people, tracking their numbers correctly, making sure they're inputting the CRM system, that they're doing it the right way, auditing their work, literally auditing their work. So that's a huge key, right? If you're,
Mm.
I'll just pause and explain why that is so important. So pretend you are a captain of a naval carrier, okay?
Mm-hmm.
And as you are the captain, you are the ultimate decision maker. You're responsible for everything, good or
Mm-hmm.
bad, doesn't matter. And as the captain, are you the one steering the ship?
No, of course not.
No, you're not. Are you the one looking at the radars?
No.
What about like the what is it? The propellers, the gas, the weather? All those
Mm.
things come into play. But is the captain the one doing it?
Yeah, no.
No,
Obviously, of course not.
no.
Yeah.
So the captain relies on a team to steer
Mm.
the ship. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So let's just say you're going to war. Hopefully that doesn't happen, but let's just say you're going to war and the war is all the way across the seas and you're being fed the data like, okay, you head here, make sure that you're prepared, make sure that you got these ships and you have the team and you're heading the right direction. But you're given the wrong data. You're given the wrong information. Are you going to successfully go to war and protect your country?
No. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think you would. So if you
Oh.
have the wrong, so the premise is if the captain is fed the wrong information, he's going to make a wrong decision. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Same thing with the data in your company. If you don't even have the data, it's even worse.
Mm.
You don't even know where you're going. You don't even know what you're striving for, what your target is. And if you have the wrong data, it's almost as bad because you could be thinking this is the problem. Well, actually, this is the problem. And
Mm.
so my team just they're salespeople. They're not going to put stuff in the CRM system very well. And so what we did is we said, okay, guys, we gotta right the ship. We're not getting the right data. We think we're doing good, but we're not. An example
Mm.
would be some sellers were getting on the phone, we're not getting back on the phone and making an offer. And it's like, well, what happened? Well, because they weren't tracking. We just lost an opportunity because our data was incorrect. So now we've
Mm.
course corrected, clean up the CRM system, make sure the status is correct, notes are input, the buttons are clicked, all that stuff. And now, as the captain of the ship, right? The analogy is their business. Your business is that ship. You are the captain. You're the CEO of that ship, and you need to make decisions based on good data. And so now that we have good data, we know what to fix and what is working, what is not working.
Mm.
So that's the importance of a sales coordinator, right? And I'm going to have her also audit phone calls, literally probably every phone call if I'm being honest. But
Mm.
that's the next tier to it. So there's 3 appointment setters, 1 sales coordinator, 2 closers,
Mm.
1 dispo that I'm going to be transitioning him to the COO role. Then we'll have it like a dispo person, and we have 2 TCs. So that's what my organization looks like right now. Oh, that's right, an IT
Yeah.
guy. Man, that guy's awesome. I gotta have IT.
And then, so the sales coordinator now, so they're not listening to calls, so are they, so what specifically are they doing? Like, how do they
Yeah.
know what's updated in
What they're
CRM if they haven't heard the calls?
so when the appointment is set, that's the biggest thing. Appointment is set for that day. They got to make sure that the person attended the appointment. Okay, if they attended the appointment, did they check everything off for that lead that needs to be checked off? Did they disposition their lead correctly? Do they have notes in the system that is done? Okay, they got that done. Okay, if they're in,
Mhm.
if they were if they were contacted, like leads that are brand new, okay, were they contacted? Hey, they were not contacted. Team, we got to gotta contact them. Then booked appointments. Are we filling out all the information for the booked appointments?
Mm.
All that stuff, like all the, because we use Podio, the most
Mhm.
sophisticated CRM system in the world. Just kidding, but it does the job, right? You have a bunch of buttons to click, and we got to make sure that those buttons are clicked because it gives us the direction of where we're going.
Mm.
Yeah, so that's what they're doing, just really auditing the work, keeping people accountable. Hey, I see that you had an appointment. You don't have your notes in there. Well, fill the notes. Hey, I see this lead. What's the next step for that lead? That's what she's doing.
Gotcha. And is this like, is everyone in an office? Is this remote?
It's half and half. My closing team is in office. I've
Okay.
I've been virtual for the last 9 years. I'm bringing things back in house. Well, not back in us or in house, where they're on site on the location doing
Mm.
calls virtually. Though they're not doing it in person, but they're doing still calls virtually. Well, that's that's been freaking awesome, man. I can't believe I was doing virtual for such a long time. I cannot believe it.
Virtual in which sense? Like virtual team or virtual?
Yeah, virtual team.
Mm.
Yeah. People in different parts of the world closing deals don't like that.
Yeah. What didn't you like about that model that made you decide to change?
Well, in the beginning of our journey, we had Mavericks. If you know anything about a Maverick personality from the predictive index, they are the kind of personality like a lone ranger. Give me a gun, give me a horse, I'll get your kill. Don't ask me how.
Hmm.
As a Maverick in the beginning, you kind of need that. I mean, you're if you're new in the business, you don't really know what you don't know. You really need somebody to kind of wing it and kind of be aggressive like that. It worked until it didn't. Okay. It
Mm.
worked until it didn't. So it's not that Mavericks are bad, but by any means they have a place in this world, and especially on a sales team. It's just their level of accountability needed to increase, and they weren't willing to be accountable. So how do you increase the accountability of somebody so virtual in their in their apartment, their house, or whatever, wherever they are taking calls? How do you know if they're even taking calls? How do you know? How do you build that camaraderie? It's really really hard to have a culture virtually.
Mm.
You have to be very intentional. Not saying that like what I described is not possible. I'm just saying a virtual environment is a lot harder to
Mm.
maintain. It's a lot harder to maintain.
Hmm.
You got to be on top of it. And I feel like we're doing a pretty darn good job of it now because like half of our
Mm.
team is virtual. But you don't, if you're virtual, yeah, like I said, the culture is really hard to maintain. The
Hmm.
camaraderie is really hard to maintain. And also just listening to people's calls when you're just doing other stuff is also important. Because I could
Mm.
open my door and I could hear my team's, phone calls versus me needing to be virtual. I need to physically put on my headset, listen to their calls. And that's just a little bit harder. It's not
Yeah.
it's not not possible. It's just harder. And if you add up all these small little things, it's a death by a thousand cuts.
Mm.
This just quickly adds up. Being in an in office removes a lot of the barriers, a
Hmm.
lot of the barriers. So, but yes, it increases your overhead because you now have to pay for an office space. That's the sucky part, but it's worth it.
Yeah. So are you bringing the rest of, like, I know you said half of the people are remote. Are you going to be bringing them back into the office? The other half?
Eventually, yes. Eventually, yes. We will be bringing those people in house. Just we're not there yet. We're not there yet.
Hmm. Yeah. And then, um, you said you've always done kind of the virtual model in terms of appointments. What made you decide to go that route?
The entry barrier was not as high. When you can hire anybody from their house, you're not paying for the office space. You're not committing
Mm,
yourself in that way. It's a lot cheap, and I say cheaper as cost goes, but it's actually really expensive because if they're not
mm,
closing deals because you can't manage them correctly, well, that's actually pretty expensive.
mhm,
Being in the mindset I was before, I was focused on cost. What does it cost? What does it cost? So that's why we
mm,
didn't do it, because it was, it's expensive to pay $3, 4, $5,000 a month just on office space. And when you don't have to pay that, it's like, oh, okay, that's cool.
yeah.
Yeah, but
Okay.
yeah, and now having it in the office is, I love it. I mean, for me personally, for me, I'm the type of person that I like to be around people, and you just become just too isolated by yourself.
Mm,
I didn't like that.
yeah. And we were talking a little bit offline how you were kind of revamping your sales scripts and your sales process. Can you talk a little bit about that?
I'm just not happy with the results that we have. I'm
Mm,
just not. We're not being very consistent with our deals on a contract, and I don't like that
mm,
whatsoever. I don't think anybody does. And the reason why we're just not consistent, because I don't. There's a lot of reasons in that. The hardest skill to do is to close. Right. That's the hardest skill to learn. And I'm just noticing that we're not getting enough contracts signed. The opportunities are there, just they're not enough contracts are signed. Our close ratios aren't where they need to be.
mm,
We're roughly around like 15%.
mhm,
That's not good, right? Like
mm,
20% should be the minimum. And if you're a
mhm,
30% closing, you're a freaking rock star in our industry. I'm not talking about any other industry, just our industry. So that's we need to be in the 20 to 30% close ratio.
mm.
That's what we're revamping.
And what specifically are you changing to get from that 15% up to that, 20, 30% closing ratio?
Well, the first thing you want to focus on is not actually the closing themselves. That's a misconception, because you think, oh, you're
Mm,
not closing enough deals. We need to increase your close ratio. Well, yeah, that's true. But the hardest skill set to learn is how to close. Okay, well, what's the next thing that you can do? What's the next lever that you can pull to actually literally increase the closings without increasing your skill set?
mm,
It's a like a water dam analogy. I mean, maybe that's not the right answer for it, but like pretend you have a dam, okay,
yeah.
and you want to get more water to the dam.
Mhm.
So, what do you how do you increase more flow from the dam to like downstream? What would you do?
Just open it up, right? I mean,
Yeah, you would open it up, and if you're not getting enough flow, right, there's not that many opportunities for you to have water, right? It's that kind of principle. So why not just focus not necessarily the water that you're getting? How about you focus on increasing the water flow? So start at
mm,
your the beginning of the pipeline. Focus on like the gross leads that you get, people who contacted
mm,
you, making sure that the contactability of those leads is high. So anytime a lead comes in into your system, I feel like our contactability is like 80%. So that's not bad, right? That's
mhm.
pretty good. So 80% of the people who contact us or just put into our system, we contact them. That's awesome. But
Contact
what
meaning
what
like you
happens with
actually get on they pick up a call, like you have at least just a conversation with
yep.
them. Is that defined as a contact or okay?
Contactability is defined as the ability to question if they have a property to sell, right? That's what it
Mm,
is.
okay.
Yeah. Pretty much the way we measure that is 2 minutes. If they're on the phone for them for 2 minutes and longer, that's considered contactability.
Mm,
Yeah, yeah. And so yeah, so that start there. How many leads can you contact? And you measure that and say, okay, oh, shoot, I'm not doing enough leads that are being contacted. And if you don't measure that, well, then you don't know what to fix, right? Kind of like we were
mm,
talking about. Okay, so increase the contactability rate. Great. From a contactability, then measure to your opportunities or booked appointments. Okay, so booked
Mm.
appointments or yeah, just stick with booked appointments. Then you measure that. You're saying, okay, from the people I contacted, the people who booked appointment, what's the percentage? What's the delta? What's the
Mm.
difference? That's where we're revamping. We're increasing because there's a skill set that we need to train for that.
Mm.
We're from the time that we contact them to the time we book, we just don't have enough opportunities. Okay. So right there, right, without even needing to increase anybody's like closing, ratio, if you just focus on that and you have a 15% close ratio, which we do, and then you get more people to book appointments, okay, is that going to increase your deal flow or decrease it?
Right.
I would say it would increase
Increase
it
it.
because you're still closing
Yeah.
at 15%, but you have now more
Yeah.
opportunities to practice that 15%. Yeah, that's the
Mm.
easiest lever to pull versus the downstream. Let's just say for easy numbers, let's just keep it simple. Let's just say you close 1 in 10. That's a terrible
Hmm.
ratio, by the way. It's only 10%.
Yeah.
You close 1 in 10. You have 10 now opportunities. Okay. You got to freaking close that one. A lot of relies on that 10 to 1. But let's just say now you have 20 opportunities.
Hmm.
Okay. You have a lot more wiggle room to quote unquote maybe make a mistake, but you have more opportunities to close. You're still closing at 10%, 2 out of 20, right?
Hmm.
But you've increased the flow so you
Hmm.
can actually have the opportunity to close those deals without needing to, because honestly, in my opinion, it takes about a year. It takes about a good year to be a, a closer. It takes that
Hmm.
amount of time. You got to have the reps in, you got to have the coaching, the feedback. It just takes time to be a good closer. Well, instead of waiting an entire year to be a good closer, you can literally be a good closer right now just by increasing the deal flow. So that's what
Yeah.
I mean by like revamping our sales process.
So what are you doing to get like basically to get more appointments to increase that flow so that the closers have more at bats? What are you
Yeah,
refining?
we're refining our contact. So if somebody goes
Mm.
into our no contact made status, meaning that they came in, we called them once, we called them again, they didn't pick up, we texted messaged them, they didn't pick up, we called them yet again, the triple tap, then we put them into no contact. And our process is
Mm.
we contact them 3 times a day for 10 days in a row.
Mm.
So that's our process. And what I'm see, this is what I mean. You got to get really granular. And from that, right? So from that, okay, how many of those people that were not contacted did you recontact?
Mm.
Okay. So now you say, okay, so I've recontacted them. I got them on the phone. What happened to them? Did they, why didn't they book? If you
Mm.
didn't book, what was the quality of the lead? What was said to that lead? And there is the opportunity. Okay.
Mm.
Well, actually, the two places is, are you doing the right type of follow up to contact people? I feel like
Mm.
we are. I mean, calling me 3 times a day for 10 days in a freaking row, that's
Yeah.
a significant amount of follow up. So
Yeah.
there's that aspect to it too. So I feel like we're doing good, but decisions shouldn't be based on a feeling, and that's the part right now we're optimizing. Instead of making it a feeling, make it a decision
Mm.
of like, this is what it is on a spreadsheet, this is what the numbers tell me to do. So
Hmm.
that's the part we're needing to do better tracking of is that gap that I quite frankly don't know what that gap looks like.
Which gap? The gap of sorry, which gap do you mean? The
From they were not contacted to being recontacted. I don't
mm.
know what percentage of sellers we recontact.
That's after they go into that bucket after that third call, and then they're in the 10 days of three
Yeah,
calls a day. How many do we resurrect out of that bucket, basically?
exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I want to know what was said,
Hmm.
how many of those people did not book, or what was the objection. That's where
Mm.
the coaching needs to happen.
Have you gotten deep enough where you're seeing any kind of trends yet as to what the reason they're not booking is?
We're so early in the process. The answer is no.
Yeah.
We don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Louisa had a question, which is, what are your marketing sources right now?
Um, we're we're optimizing, that's for sure. So the best source right now is Google. And I
Hmm.
tell people, do not start with Google. For the love of God, please don't. But that's our number one lead source. We spend a tremendous amount of money on that channel right now. I think it's like 30. We're pretty much going to get to 40,000 in ad spend per month on that.
Okay.
We're
That's
doing
PPC
texting.
then.
Yep,
Okay.
yep. We're doing texting, Facebook. We've been doing SEO for ages. We're revamping cold calling right now. We're going to
Hmm.
bring cold calling pretty much in house. That's what we're going to be doing. Just the company that we're using, just it's like a black box. They just produce a lead. You just don't know how. You don't know what was said. None of the qualification
Hmm.
criteria. And then it really bugged me big time when I actually put myself on the calling list so they could call me. And when they
Hmm.
called me, it was the most cringiest phone call I've ever heard. And I'm like, WTF, I'm paying money for this. This is the worst. And I'm like, okay, we're done. We're gonna stop. So we stopped that. We're gonna bring it in house. So those are
Hmm.
our marketing channels. Cold calling we're still doing, just
Hmm.
revamping that. Texting, PPC, Facebook SEO.
Gotcha. So that's interesting because like you tend to see people they have either like they're an inbound focus or an outbound focus, but it sounds like you guys have kind of a mix of the two.
Oh yeah. Oh, I'm glad you said that. Okay.
Yeah.
Here's the reason why. Let me tell you that in a long-winded way. When I first started, is I started with Facebook. Oh, I did direct mail. I did direct mail. I didn't really see the results that I wanted to, but really, it's
Hmm.
not that it's not that the direct mail didn't work. It's just I didn't work. I didn't have the sales training that I do now. I didn't
Hmm.
have the knowledge that I do now. But we went away from that. We're like, okay, what can we do? And we heard about SEO. And I'm glad that I started SEO in the very beginning because that's
Hmm.
been producing freaking amazing. It's like when is the best time to plant a tree? 10 years ago. That's what I did. I planted that tree and now it's producing freaking, great results. But I also did to Facebook and Google ads. Well,
Hmm.
when Google Ads and Facebook were performing, I mean, I was high, but then when it wasn't performing, I was low. And I was like, it's having these wishy-washy results. And I thought there's something wrong with me. There wasn't nothing wrong with me, just I didn't have enough marketing channels. So when you only have one or two marketing
Hmm.
channels, you're going to get that ebbs and flows. And people say, "Oh, start with one marketing channel, optimize it, and then move on to the next one." I kind of tend to sort of agree with that. And in one way I do, and in one way I don't. And one way
Hmm.
that I do is it creates a lot of focus. It creates
Hmm.
a lot of focus for you to actually focus on one thing and one thing only. So you're not being scatterbrained. If you're a one person operation, yeah, you probably need to do one marketing channel and you need to be really freaking good at it. Because if
Hmm.
you're a one man operation, but if you're not, then you shouldn't. I really say that you get really consistent results when you're at five, maybe four to five, kind of depends, 4 to 5 marketing channels.
Hmm.
Diversification, because if one channel isn't performing, guess what? Another channel is. Okay. So
Yeah.
let's just say you just did cold calling like I was doing, or
Hmm.
just say you just did cold calling. Well, my results tanked. If that's my only marketing channel
Hmm.
and those results tank, I'm out of business.
Hmm.
I have nothing to help me offset this. So when you have, marketing channels that ebbs and flows and whatnot, you actually have this consistency happen.
Hmm.
So that's why I recommend, having really you get to see tremendous deal flow at 4 to 5 marketing channels, and just take that
Yeah.
with a grain of salt because you also have to consider how many leads you're getting from those channels and how much you're investing in those channels. So
Yeah.
it's not a simple answer saying, hey, there's 4 marketing channels, or you spend 10,000 or 20 or 50,000 a month. It just you got to be more sophisticated than that.
How do you mean like how should people look at it to be more sophisticated?
Yeah. So an example, like I was saying earlier, is don't start with Google Ads. For the love of God, do not start with Google Ads. There, when I first started, they were about $200 a lead. Okay, that was considered expensive. That
Hmm.
was considered expensive. If I'm just learning wholesaling, the process of investing in real estate, would I want to practice on a $200 lead, or do I want to practice maybe on like a $30 lead?
Hmm.
right?
Yeah.
You want to practice on the cheaper lead. Absolutely. You're getting your reps in. You're starting out that way. You're learning how to overcome objections, the sales process. So don't start with the most expensive lead there is. It's kind of like playing um, in a way, it's kind of like rolling a dice in a way. So
Mm.
let's just say you're playing. I don't gamble, but let's just say I gambled. I have a six-sided dice. Each time that I roll the dice, it costs me $100.
Hmm.
Okay. But if I land on the number six, the payout is $1,000. Okay. Now, let me ask you this: would you roll that dice?
Yeah. Forever.
How come?
Well, it's just if the longer I roll it, the more the odds, just will play in my favor. I mean, it's just I'm printing money
Yep.
essentially. I might have
Yep.
down moments, but if I keep rolling, I'm going to win overall.
Those are pretty good odds, by the way. I mean, those are
Yeah.
pretty good odds. I mean, if you're paying $100, okay, and you're getting $1,000 in return, that's a 1 in 6. Okay, 1 in 6 chances you're going to roll $1,000 for $100.
Yeah.
Okay, but let's just say you're in a bad streak. You're like $100, $100, $100, and you're like, crap, this is not working. Right? If you get in a bad streak, you can potentially say, oh my gosh, this is not working. This is a terrible strategy. It's not working. It just takes consistency. It takes time to do that. So
Mm.
instead of spending $100 a roll, why not learn the process of maybe spending $20 a roll,
Hmm.
$30 a roll? And the payout could be somewhat similar. You just have to roll a lot more for sure. It just also matter your risk tolerance. Some people are not
Hmm.
okay with spending $100 a roll. I have to spend $500 a roll to get one lead. That's what it
Mm.
costs me right now, right? And that's considered the going market rate for Google. Don't start at Google. If you're going to start with cold calling, start with texting, start with door
Mm.
knocking, mail marketing. That's actually cheaper than that. Learn the process before you get into expensive more marketing channels. And yeah, add Google, add Facebook, add YouTube, and then you could do bill no, don't do billboards. Do TV ads. Billboards are terrible ROI. They're terrible. They're meant for branding. They're not meant for getting a ROI. That's, yeah, they're
Yeah.
different strategy. So yeah, those are ways to choose what marketing channel you should be using.
Are you still having success with texting? I know a lot of people have stopped it because a lot of, regulatory changes and things also just getting filtered out by the carriers.
Yeah, we've definitely had our challenges with that. We've changed things up so that we are performing. So yeah,
You are? Okay.
yeah, I can definitely tell you a story about that. But yeah, we've been blocked. We've had to re-establish our accounts and all that stuff. But it is working. Yeah, it is
Yeah.
working.
Have you noticed that the way it's performing has increased since a lot of people have stopped doing it, or is it pretty much flat as before?
That's kind of what I'm hoping for. I haven't seen an
Yeah.
increase. Yeah, so far
You
it's
haven't? Okay. Yeah.
same results. I'm hoping that it will increase.
Yeah. Yeah, I had a theory on that a while ago. I was like, give it like 2 years, everyone will get out of it, and then you start doing it again. And then if you can figure out a way to get it done, then maybe you'll be maybe not the only guy, but one of the few.
Yeah.
Uh, but I was curious if that had come about yet. So
No, it's too early. It's way too early for that. Yeah.
yeah. Fine. And then like I mean, if you have all those lead channels though, you must have like a fairly high volume of leads, I would think on a weekly basis. How many
In a
leads
month
are
we
you get?
yeah, in a month we get about 500 leads.
Yeah. And so how are you efficiently handling that kind of lead volume?
Do you mean like what's my process for that?
Yeah, I mean, I think you said you had three people who were kind of, I forget your name for the role, but qualifying them basically. And
Yeah, appointment
then
setters. Yeah, lead managers. Yeah.
setters, yeah. And then you've
Hmm.
got two closers. I mean, it depends on how they pick up in the cycle, but that's a lot of phone calls in a month, right? So how is that process to make sure that I mean, if you're getting to 80% contactability, I mean, it's pretty solid for that many leads.
Sure. Okay, help me out with the math here. So if I take 500 on average
Uh-huh.
divided by 21 days, work call it 22. Why not? 22 days. What is that? We're
Um,
talking about
about
22 leads a day.
yeah.
Yeah, 22 leads a day. And I have between that, you could pretty much say I have 5 people between the appointment setters and my closers because my inbound leads go to my closers. They
Ah.
do not go to my appointment setters. If anybody's watching this, and this is literally a hack, and if I say this, I'm kind of afraid to even say this because how much of a hack it is and how much of a misconception it is.
Hmm.
When you have a smaller company, again, I would consider myself definitely small, not big by any means. You are wasting your money when you have a Google lead, a direct mail, a Facebook lead go directly to an appointment center. You are wasting your money.
Hmm.
Okay. They are not as high skilled as a closer is. What's the average cost for me on an inbound lead? $500.
Hmm.
How come I would direct a $500 opportunity to someone who is not as qualified?
Hmm.
That's just crazy. That's just crazy. What we do is inbound marketing leads go directly to our closers. Okay, let me
Hmm.
say that again. This is the hack. If you are small operations, your appointment setters do not touch those leads. They go directly to a closer. Okay, directly to a closer. That does a couple of things. You speak to more higher skilled people and you
Hmm.
skip a step. Anytime you introduce anything, I don't care what it is, anytime there's an additional step, there's an opportunity for that to be fumbled,
Hmm.
opportunity for a mistake to happen. So you remove two big things, two major things, and that's how you increase your close ratio, like I did with Google inbound
Hmm.
marketing. Our colder opportunities from texting, a cold calling, they go to our appointment setters.
Hmm.
So that's how we differentiate the leads. And then from that standpoint, we have pretty much 5 people grabbing leads,
Hmm.
in a day. So it might sound like, oh my gosh, 500 leads in a month. That's not a lot. That's not a lot of leads whatsoever. So we have 5 people on leads. So that's 5 divided by 22. What is that? Four leads a person.
500.
Yeah,
500.
that's
Oh, but okay, I got you.
well. No,
Yeah.
yeah. So if you have
Per
20,
day.
roughly 22 leads coming a day, yeah, that's
Yeah.
between 5 people. They're grabbing 4 leads per person,
Hmm.
roughly speaking. Yeah. So
Right.
it's not that much. I mean,
It's
if
not that much.
are you able to like manage your appointments and grabbing 4 leads a day? Yeah,
Sure. Yeah.
it's not that bad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Gotcha. You said earlier, you were focused on like the office part, you were focused on costs because of the mindset you had before. How has your mindset changed where you've made those changes to your team and the operation that you are willing to like not look at it in that way anymore?
Yeah. People think I'm crazy for saying this. Would you pay? Um, I would pay $1 million a lead gladly. I do it twice on Sunday.
Hmm.
Some people are like, "Oh my gosh, that's a lot of money on one lead." If that lead produces me $10 million, I would absolutely spend $1 million.
Hmm.
That $1 million is cheap. It's not focused on price. It's focused on value. What is the
Hmm.
value? When you go to a restaurant and you stop looking at the right side of the menu and look at the left side of the menu, that's how you know you change your mindset. Because the right side
Hmm.
of the menu talks about prices. What does it cost? Versus what do I really want? What I
Hmm.
really want. So for me is it's changing that shift is like where's the value? What am I really
Hmm.
focused on? And so it took me a long time to do this. And by any means, it's definitely a journey. How do you get from price based focus to value based focus or results based focus?
Hmm.
What's the return on investment versus what is the cost? So
Hmm.
people say, I'll never pay $1 million a lead. I'm saying, I will beg, borrow, and steal, not steal, $1 million to invest in that lead if it's going to produce me $10 million.
Hmm. And how did you go about shifting that mindset?
I come from a very poor family. I am an immigrant from Ukraine.
Mm,
My dad was a rural farmer. My mom was a rural farmer. They lived in areas that did not have electricity or running water. They had to get water from a well. And so for them, it was very much about price, very much about price. How
mm,
can I do this myself? How can I DIY this? And then coming to in America, to live off of welfare, you ingrain not knowing a certain mentality of how
mm,
to think about the world. That hey, the rich man is keeping me down. It's because of the system that I'm down. And I had a shift really when I started to become an entrepreneur, and that
mm,
like the world is not bad. It's your perception. When I started hanging out around millionaires, I'm like, they're just like me. They're not bad
mm,
people. That's when I had that shift is being around people that I wanted to be like. So my environment, also reading a ton of books. Man,
mm,
leaders are readers. If you don't read, you're not a leader. I'm just gonna flat out say it. If you don't
mm,
read, you're not really a leader. Books are comprised of knowledge, and I like to think that one book has 10 years worth of knowledge into it. So somebody had to
mm,
spend 10 years of of their life to gather that information to be able to write a book. You know,
mm,
I don't have to live 10 years to get the same knowledge. I could just read the book.
mm,
So having people change my perception of how I see the world is huge. So
mm.
the highest cost that we can pay, the highest cost that we can pay is the cost of learning from our own mistakes. That's the
Yeah.
highest price that we can pay. Because money can always be made. You can never regain time. So if it
Mm,
takes you 10 years to learn that lesson, man, that's an expensive lesson to learn versus
mm,
learning from other people's mistakes, learning from
mm,
other people, coaching programs, mentors, learn from them so you can shorten that gap of information that you don't have. And most importantly, the time that it takes to get that knowledge. That's how
mm.
I've been able to shift my mentality.
Gotcha. And Luisa had another question, which is, you spoke about PI a while ago. What profiles, and you spoke about Mavericks, right, and how that was working in the beginning,
Yes. Yes, I
and
did.
maybe not as much anymore. What profiles are you hiring for closers, and which are you hiring for setters? Which are you looking for setters?
Well, I say this with some disclaimers. Is I'm not a PI expert by any means. I know just enough to make a decision here and there. um, so that's my disclaimer. You are familiar with the predictive index?
Yeah, very. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. I look for personality type, but you also have to consider is my personality, which people do not take that
Mm,
consideration. They're like, okay, I'm looking for a maverick, I'm looking for a captain, a venturer, what is it? All those other profiles that we'll get into in a second, but they disregard their own profile.
mm,
You have to take that in consideration. I'm a captain. Okay.
mm,
Yeah, as a business, you want someone like my personality to be a CEO, to be a COO, to be a leader, to be a closer, because they're going to get things done. Okay. But also, if I hire, for example, an executive assistant who is more of a maybe like a persuader, man, you're hiring the wrong type of behavior. Because the best thing about the predictive index is that's not a personality, right? It's a behavior. They're learning what your natural behavior is.
mm,
So the akin to that would be is like breeding a horse. There's certain breeds that do very well in horse racing. And there's
mhm,
certain breeds that don't. It's not that they're wrong for horse racing. It's just that there's certain breeds that perform better. Why not get a horse that is meant to be a runner?
mm,
Not necessarily a horse that is meant to pull wagons, has a lot of feet strength, or a horse that is meant for show, right? there's so many different types of horses. It's not that they're bad; they just serve a different purpose. So with
Mm,
the behavior type says this is how I behave naturally. So in a sales role, you want to find a behavior that people naturally perform in, because we don't perform to the highest to our potential. We perform to our, pretty much our basic um, our basic skill level, right? And
mm,
also we can say is that we naturally behave to our personalities. We don't have
mm,
to like put on a face. We don't have to act a certain way. We just naturally are. So it's a
mm,
lot easier to work with a personnel that's naturally wants to be inclined and motivated by certain things. Because
mm,
like a captain, a maverick, persuader, promoter, um, there's one more. I think venture, if I'm not mistaken. Those are good personalities to consider as a sales, but just that personality alone doesn't make them a good fit. You also
mm,
have to take into consideration your personality. Is if you'll clash. I'll never
mm,
hire a Maverick in my company. I'll never hire a Maverick in my company. It just there's too much tension. They want more independence than I want, and so what's going to happen is naturally they're going to want to. They're going you're going to butt heads. It is what it is. I just rather not deal with that.
mm,
Um, you also want to take in consideration their background, right? If you want to know where someone's going, see where they have been. Okay, that is a huge thing as well. And we also hire based on core values. We have core values that they
mm,
have to meet by, and if they don't meet those core values, well then shoot, they're not a good fit. They're just not. If someone's not doesn't have a growth mindset, I don't want them on my team.
mm.
Yeah, I do not want them on my team.
Yeah. And then how are you going about recruiting talent for your team?
Right now, it is a lot of Indeed and LinkedIn.
Hmm. Like, are you reaching out to people or are you posting jobs on those platforms?
Yep, yep. We're doing a little bit of both. Yep, reaching out to people and reaching out is through LinkedIn, and posting an Indeed ad is the second one. Yep, yeah. We've done recruiters before. They're not bad. I mean, you could definitely do a recruiter. Um, just got to be careful. Yeah, got to be careful.
Yeah. Was there specific people or industries that you're reaching out for when you're hiring salespeople? When you're reaching out through LinkedIn?
Yeah, I mean the great I guess past career someone has had is solar,
Hmm.
door-to-door alarm sales, vacation rentals, not vacation rental. What is it? The timeshares, right? The
Oh
timeshares.
yeah, actors.
Those,
Yeah.
yeah, the timeshares. Any kind of advertising sales, um, maybe selling IULs, life insurance, right? Those are all required based on commission sales. That's what I really am looking for is not
Mm,
just has a base salary, but really heavy commissioned, experience. Because if someone's
mm,
not heavy commissioned, before, and you put them in a heavy commissions an environment, they're not going to want to perform.
yeah.
They have a certain behavior they come with, and you're going to have to disrupt that behavior. So it's a lot
Mm,
harder to do that versus someone already has that. Like, oh yeah, I know how commissions work. I know how the commission only structure works, and they're more comfortable with that. They're willing to bet on themselves. So
mm,
that's what I'm generally looking for. A good trait to also look for is someone who's done um, sports in the past.
mm,
Sports teaches you certain behaviors. They teach you how to be a team player. They teach you to to train. Okay,
mm,
and especially if someone's been a captain of their team, someone who's out has some kind of accolades. I love to see that. Yeah, my
mm,
my ideal avatar for a salesperson is captain, persuader, promoter. There's one more that I'm forgetting. I forget that what that is. They were on a sports team. I don't care male or female. Doesn't really matter. They they have a history of promotions, right? They have a trajectory of wanting to scale up their skills, and they've had heavy commissions.
mm. Gotcha. What's your vision for your company over the next 3 years?
over the next 3 years. So we're our current goals are to do 300 per month bare minimum.
Hmm.
Where I would love to be, where I'm striving to be, is about a million a month.
Yeah.
That's what I want to be doing in 3 years time, is how can we get to a million a month.
And are you pretty much wholesale focused now, or are you still doing a lot of wholesales or flips or?
We don't do as many wholesales. Is it just the market has shown us, differently. We might refocus that more on wholesale because interest rates are freaking high and properties are taking longer to sell. So that might change. We do a lot of innovations, and we're
Mm,
getting into more and more flips. So flips is something that I'm really interested in doing because just the profit per deal is a lot higher. Yeah, there's way more risk into it. It's just, yeah, just the profit per deal needs to increase.
so you do a lot more novations than you do wholesales. Interesting.
Oh yeah, easily.
Yeah. And then how are you building up the construction side of your business for the flips if you're ramping that up?
Well, the person that I hired used to do a lot of flips himself, so he has a tremendous experience in that area, and it's just nothing special, right? You start doing flips consistently. Making it sure that you're creating a system process around that. And what I mean by
Mm,
system and process is like really have like a checkbox. How can I scale this up by having like documentation I could hand off to someone else to do it, and how
mm.
can I manage them. So that's what we're doing right now, is we're documenting our process along the way.
And this person you hired, they're like an in-house project manager, or what's their role?
Yep.
Gotcha. And then so the novations, yeah, talk about that because like I guess I'm curious, always curious, like everyone's kind of got a different pitch for the novation. Some people do some work on the properties, other people don't. Like what's your approach to innovation?
You mean do how do I pitch it?
Um, well, I guess yeah, how would you pitch it? And also like are you guys the type that you do work on the properties before or do you not? Just get the
It
permission to
depends
let
on the
people
deal. Some deals we do, some deals we don't. Yeah, it really depends on the deal. If a deal has stuff piled high to the ceiling, yeah, we're gonna need to do something about that
know.
for
Yeah.
sure. It's
Yeah.
not going to show well. Some deals are no, not necessarily. You just show it as is, and you're fine with that.
Yeah.
And if something comes up on the inspection report, yeah, we negotiate it or take care of it and close.
Yeah. And what's kind of your pitch to the sellers on the innovation side?
On the vision side, it's nothing special, right? We price anchor them with a cash offer. So
Hmm.
we say, hey, you know, investors in the area are paying between X and Y. I'm not saying you that's my offer, but if somebody were to offer you that, I guess what would you say? Oh, I'd never
Hmm.
accept that. Yeah, that's far too low. What were you hoping to hear? Well, I was hoping X and Y and Z. Yeah, I can appreciate that. I mean, I looked at the comparables that are in the area, and we just can't come up to that. There's just no way for us to do that. I could maybe do, and you say whatever it is, and you go back and forth, have that negotiating dialogue.
Hmm.
And if you're stuck at a price and you could do novation on it, because not every property qualifies for novation,
Hmm.
you pitch it saying, look, I have a way for us to be able to still possibly work together. I'm not quite sure yet. If we were to be able to discuss a way for us to get closer to your number, would you be opposed to having a conversation around that? And they're like, oh, no, no, because why would you say no? Right? You're going to
Yeah,
get
who would
closer
say
to the
no?
number. Yeah. And so we just ask for time and money. Okay. Now the way this works is we would need two things. We have to have these two things. We need a little bit more access to the property, and we need more time for us to be able to close. Is that would I be crazy to ask for those two things if I could increase my price? And they say, yeah, They'll say yes. And I pitch it to them saying, okay, well, this is how it works is we work with pre-qualified buyers in the area. And what we're
Mm,
going to do is work with, agents. We're going to work with our off-market buyers. We're going to work with our investors in the area to buy the property. The way that's a huge benefit to you is that, well, we're not needing to bring in capital partners who are very expensive because they're going to want to charge us crazy amounts of interest. Well, we just pass the savings on to you. So we don't do that. Well, now with these pre-qualified buyers, they have their cheaper financing, and by using the less expensive financing, we can get you a higher offer. Now hold on, seller, you're still not on the hook for repairs. You still don't need to worry about the condition of the property. We'll take care of that for you. And if we're able
mm,
if we're able to increase our offer, how does that sound? And they say, yeah, great. Okay, well, we can come up and you just negotiate that way. And that's
right.
that's how
Okay.
we pitch it. Yep. And then we
Gotcha.
absolutely explain further. It's not we just leave it at that. We don't want to confuse the seller. We don't want to over explain ourselves. We don't want to we don't want to shoot ourselves in the foot. We want to give them enough information to make them educated. And after we sign the contract, then we talk to them about working with the open market, working with, not showings. What do we call them? Not open houses, but we have to show the property. We have to get access to the property, and we talk about what that access looks like. So
Mm,
then that's the best time to explain what the process looks like. So they're not like, oh my gosh, this is not what I signed up for. This is not what I wanted. So they know what to expect.
mm. And then are you like having to work around their schedule with those times, or are you just kind of getting them to do like a lockbox and then people just kind of see it as they want? Like how do you handle that part?
Yeah, we work with an agent in the area who does that for us.
Gotcha. So then that agent will coordinate everything with the seller after you kind of
Yeah.
hand it off. Cool.
Yeah. Big mistake is not using an agent.
Mm,
That's the biggest mistake I see with novations. They're like, "Oh no, I don't want to pay the commissions to an agent." Well, somebody needs to do the work. Are you going to do it? No. Well, then how the heck is it going to be done? And then they might hire like somebody, some boots on the ground, but they're not going to be consistent. They're
yeah.
not going to know what they're doing. It's going to be so choppy. I know this because I've done it. Okay, and I do
Yeah.
not recommend it. Work with an agent. Pay them the commissions. It's worth it.
What kind of time frame expectation are you setting so that you know you can get it across the finish line?
90 days.
90 days. Gotcha.
Yeah.
And
Because
are
if they
you?
don't have 90 days, they absolutely need a cash offer. If they can't
Yeah.
wait 90 days, they don't qualify for novation.
Yeah. Is there anything else you said? You said not every property qualifies for novation. Is there anything else that's like, nope, we're not going to put this property in the novation bucket?
Yeah, the 30-day thing.
Oh, I mean, outside of time. I mean,
Outside of time, sometimes condition,
mm,
not always. It really depends.
mm,
Yes, because if sometimes the condition of the property is so bad, then we're we're it's probably a wholesale. And access. If we can't get access to the property, like tenants are there, they're now squatters. How the heck are you going to show that property? You can't. So that's a deal
right.
killer. Yeah, and
Yeah.
properties that are just either they don't qualify for traditional financing or they're not cash deals. So we're talking like tiny houses.
Oh,
Those don't qualify.
sure.
What else? Container houses. those two. We don't really like doing rural land either. Rural
Sure.
land is just anything that is out like not in a obscure location. Those are not deals.
Yeah. Gotcha. Well, we're getting close to the end here, and there's always two questions that I like to ask at the end of the
Mhm.
show. The first is, what is the craziest or most uncomfortable situation that you have ever experienced in a real estate deal?
Hmm. Craziest situation. Yes, I in my second year, I believe, I think it was second year, I had a program called the home buyer on the home. Gosh, what was it called? I think it was a home finder program or home something. It was pretty much like a property scout. like a
Uh-huh.
yeah, like a property scout. And I had a deal in Portland that someone brought to me, and it was a referral. I said, "Hey, if I close on this deal, then I'll pay you, for getting this deal." Well, what ended up happening was that the deal that they brought to me wasn't as good of a deal as we thought. We're like, okay, there's way too much risk in this property. Just the condition that was told to us was not really the condition, and we ended up wholesaling it out. And so the person that referred us the deal is like, "Hey, where's my money?" We're like, "We can give you $1,000. That's about it, because we're not buying the property. It's not what it was." And it wasn't like we're making a crazy amount of money, but the guy who brought us the deal was a convict. So he did some hard time, and he was, man, it was personal for him. He was like, "Where's my money? Where's my money?" I'm like, this is all I can give you. Like, we only made like 12 grand on that deal, or 13 grand on that deal. It was not a lot by any means. Um, and he straight up looked me up online, looked up my address, and was like, "I know where you live," and told me the address. He's like, "I did time, and I'm more than happy to do more time. I'm gonna get after you." Of course, he used more colorful words than that. He was
Yeah.
way more colorful than that, but that was pretty intense. Yeah, that
Did
was
he
pretty
go? Did
intense.
he just go away after a while, or what happened?
Yeah, I mean, after he got his check in the mail, I think we increased it to like 3,000 or $2,000, whatever it was. It was just, yeah, yeah. We finally got it taken care of.
Gee.
Not fun. Yeah, not
Yeah,
fun.
gotcha. Well, my second question for the newer people listening is if you could go back in time, give yourself one piece of advice when you were looking for your first deal, knowing what you know now, what would you tell yourself?
Go and find the biggest, baddest investor in the area. Either pay them to learn or work for free.
Hmm.
Okay, that's what I would do. I would not do it on my own ever again. I like to think of a concept. It's a lot easier to go from 1 to 5 than from 0 to 1.
Hmm.
Do you know what I mean by that?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. When you start from scratch, it's really freaking hard.
Hmm.
Really, really hard. You have to figure everything out on your own. You have to, bootstrap the whole thing. Why not already be at 1? Why not have it already established for you? And then when you're at 1, you go to 5. You don't go to 1 to 2. That's not how the math works. You
Hmm.
literally go from 1 to 5. So when you start out, you don't know what to do. You don't have any deals to work on. Go learn from somebody. Hire a mentor, hire a coach, pay them the money to take you to 1. Okay. So you're
Hmm.
not already at 0. Learn the skill so you can get your first deal as soon as possible. In your brain, you want to hit yourself with as much dopamine as you possibly can, as quickly as you possibly can. You
Hmm.
need to train your brain to be addicted to that. And I really mean to be addicted to success. So when
Hmm.
you can stack win after win after win as quickly as possible, you're
Hmm.
training your brain to do that behavior. But it's really hard to
Hmm.
do that behavior when you're seeing a failure after failure after failure,
Hmm.
because you don't know what you're doing. You don't know what direction to go to. Something's not working out, and you have zero guidance on it. But if you can have someone to teach you the process, hey, don't make this mistake. Do this instead. If you do this, you're going to get results. You're gonna do the thing because you're going to trust them. You're going to get results. You're like, oh my gosh, that worked. And guess what? You're going to
Hmm.
want to do more of the thing that they taught you. And not only are you saving time, you're actually making money too. So that's what I would recommend, to myself if I do this all over again.
Yeah, that's a great piece of advice. Victor, if people want to reach out to you after the show, if they have any questions, how can they go about doing that?
I'm on Instagram, Victor, I believe GLG, and Facebook, Viktor Rybachuk.
Okay. Awesome, Victor. Well, thanks for being on the show.
All right, man. Thank you.